Hey, everyone. Thank you for tuning in back to Ignorance into Enlightenment. All right, let's get back into the African presence in ancient America. They came before Columbus. We're in chapter 1, and this is going to be part 2.
Oh, here we go again.
Even those historians who would canonize Christopher Columbus have all agreed he was inordinately greedy. He demanded of Spain 1/3, 1/8, and 1/10 of everything found in the New World. Okay. Thus, if the gains amounted to $24,000 for a ship, Columbus would expect to receive the first $800 for the third, and the next $300 for his eighth, and last $240 for his 10th, making in all $1,340, receiving more than the crown. Knowing what a hard bargain the Genoese adventurer had struck with Spain over his potential discoveries, King Ferdinand must have wondered what really went on in the Portuguese court.
Got to let you go. You gotta let me go.
It was later to appear in charges leveled against Columbus that the storm that drove him into Lisbon was either exaggerated or fabricated, and that he had made for Portugal deliberately in order to intrigue with Don Juan. Columbus Ferdinand knew was no stranger to the Portuguese court. He had been trying to further his schemes there for nearly 14 years. He had sailed to Guinea in 1483 on a Portuguese ship. His relationship with Portugal had soared only because its King Afonso and Don Juan were both slow to finance his enterprise. Anyway, you all, you know what? I want to know, what is the official language? Let's look this up. French. Okay. So you all, I'm just looking into this because this is going to help us to see how everything in today's world, how the past influence how everything is going on today. Okay, so they're speaking French. Okay. All right. So Columbus, he had sailed to Guinea in 1483 on a Portuguese ship. His relationship with Portugal has soured only because its kings Afonso and Don Juan were both slow to finance his enterprise. The same, however, could have been said of the Spanish sovereigns. Isabella at first was not surprised.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Was not suspicious of her favorite. She attributed his curious advocacy of the Portuguese case, to which she thought was his political nativity. The very month he sailed again for the Caribbean on his second voyage, she wrote, warning him, "In this affair of Portugal, no determination has been taken with those who are here, Don Juan's ambassadors. Although I believe that the king will come to terms therein, I would wish you to think the contrary, in order that you may not on the account fail or neglect to act prudently and with due caution, so that you may not be deceived in any manner whatever." Only after Columbus's tardy response to her request for charts of navigation or for the precise number and proposed names of the islands he claimed to have discovered off Asia, did she begin to wonder whether he was open and straightforward as he seemed. 2 months after the signing of the Treaty of Tordesillas, about which the Spanish king had strong misgivings, King Ferdinand wrote Columbus asking him to come home immediately and help them sort out disputes with the Portugal arising over the settlement of this extraordinary boundary line.
I don't like where this is going.
Columbus was in Cuba, which he claimed at the time was the mainland, in spite of native pronouncements to the contrary. When a mail boat arrived carrying the king's letter, Columbus replied promptly, saying he could not go home, for he was too gravely ill to move.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
So Columbus over here getting sick. "Whether you are to go on this business or not," wrote Ferdinand, "write to us very fully all that you know what this matter." The matter, and I believe the matter back then, you all probably like the issue, or we will say that what's the issue, what's the problem, or what's the situation. The matter, however, cooled when Don Juan died of dropsy a year later. His death came as a relief to the Spanish, who, in spite of the agreement and the continuance of their obligation to his successors, were none too eager to fix with an irrevocable finality, and precision the limits of their domains within the ocean sea. Few Spanish maps, in fact, show a recognition of this line. Columbus was slow to act on what Don Juan had told him about the Guinea route, which led to the continent in the south. Circumstances made it difficult for him to investigate this matter on his second voyage. One of the reasons may have been his own disarming argument that Portugal stood to gain and Spain stood to lose.
That's typically how the bullshit goes. You feel me?
Interesting. Little or nothing by drawing of the demarcation line. Only one can speculate that part of his secret deal with Don Juan was that he should have a piece of the pie if and when the land was found, so that west of the line he would have his coffers filled with Isabella and Ferdinand, and the east of the line would be Don Juan. This kind of double dealing came as second nature to his fellow countryman Amerigo Vespucci. Remember that name, you all. Whom Frederick Pohl tells us paid homage to both courts and changed flags when it suited his advantage. Columbus had some secret understanding with Vespucci, and in a letter to his son, Diego Columbus, there is a strong hint of this. Columbus in this letter, dated 1505, remember that, 1505, asked his son to contact Vespucci as he about to appear before the Spanish court, but to do so secretly that there may be no suspicion.
I got you, homie.
In the same letter, Columbus speaks of payment that has been made to me and is being made, but is afraid to detail this payment, saying, I will give the information yonder because it's impossible to give it in writing. If he referred to the usual payments due him for his excursions and discoveries in the Indies, the terms of these were well known, published, and protected by letters, patent, or legal articles.
What do you mean by that?
Why then the secrecy? Why was it impossible to commit the matter to writing? Why the great fear of arousing suspicion? Also, how do we explain the strange relationship to Vespucci, to whom he referred in this letter as if he were a messenger or agent in his pay?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
See what he can do to profit me there at the court, and strive to have him do it, for he will do everything. This and other pieces of evidence seem to indicate that the Columbus was deliberately holding back on South America.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
His strained insistence to King Ferdinand that Cuba was a continent, although he wrote Louis de Santiago, Chancellor of Aragon, months earlier declaring that the natives who had lived there for centuries, for centuries,
2,000 years later,
were certain it was an island. See? For centuries, there was natives there. Indigenous Aborigine people.
How?
All right. And his equally strange insistence that South America was an island after the most curiosity, I'm sorry, y'all, was an island after the most curiosity and superficial examination may be seen in this light. He had committed himself, it seems, to keeping the Spanish away from the southern continent, perhaps to facilitate his deal with the Portuguese. Okay, so Columbus is trying to keep the Spanish away, I guess, from the Cuba area because they're trying to seal a deal with the Portuguese.
Stop it. Get some help.
No wonder Ferdinand and Isabella grew suspicions and allowed Bobadilla to seize Columbus and his brother and drag them back, naked and disgraced, to Spain. Whatever Columbus may have personally known or felt or plot, his argument, nothing but water to the east of the demarcation line, was the best to counter Spanish suspicions and objections to the pact. It was the worst argument, however, to present to the court if he wanted to secure immediate promotion of further explorations to the south. If the theme of the first voyage had been discovery and exploration, the theme of the second was colonization and consolidation.
Huh?
Okay, let's go back. Okay, they said it was the worst argument, however, to present to the court if he wanted to secure immediate promotion of further explorations to the south. If the theme of the first voyage had been discovery and exploration, then the theme of the second was colonization and consolidation. The order went out. Take 2,000 Spaniards with you. Plant a colony.
I don't like where this is going.
Build a church. Build a city. Let us have forts, farms, and towns. Above all, pursue vigorously the search for gold whenever a break from ordinary labors will permit. Very telling. The building of the new city of Isabella, the struggle to subdue and convert the natives of the Caribbean.
How did they think that was okay?
Who had massacred the first settlement of Spaniards and demolished their fort. All right, y'all. See, this here is something that they probably wouldn't tell us in school, but right here it says the building of the new city of Isabella. There was a struggle to subdue and convert the natives of the Caribbean.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
Who they massacred the first settlements of the Spaniards and demolished their forts. Occupied most of Columbia's, so we got to keep that in mind. Occupied most of Columbia's time until his return from his second voyage in 1496. While in Hispaniola, however, something happened that confirmed and complemented what Don Juan had said. The Indians gave proof that they were trading with black people. Now, all right. They brought to the Spanish concrete evidence of this trade. The Indians of this Hispaniola said there had come to Hispaniola a black people who have the tops of their spears made of metal, which they call guanin, of which he, which is Columbus, has sent samples to sovereigns to have them assayed. When it was found that of 32 parts, 18 were of gold, 6 of silver, and 8 of copper. The origin of the word guanin may be tracked down in the Mandi language of West Africa through the Mandingo, the Kabunga, Tomaka, Kenka, and Bambara, Mandi, and Ve'i. In Ve'i, we have the form of the word Kani.
What?
Which translated into the native phonics would give us Gaini. In Columbus's journal, gold, in quotation marks, is given as Koana, which Gaini is recorded as an island where there's much gold. Just to let y'all know, when we talking about Hispaniola, which is present-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic. So, let's go back here. They talked about the natives. At first, they really did kill off the first settlement of the Spaniards. Now, it does say here, while in Hispaniola, however, something happened that confirmed and complemented what Don Juan had said, that the Indians, which the native people of Hispaniola, gave proof that they were trading with black people. So they must have been trading with people who was not of that. They were trading with people who was not of native of that of Hispaniola, but there were already native people in Haiti and Dominican Republic. So I wouldn't say do the math, but think about it. If these people are already trading with black people, and if the natives of Hispaniola, aka Haiti and Dominican Republic, if they were already trading with these black people, which I'm assuming they're talking about the Africans, then that will let you know before slavery kind of even came into existence. Then that means the indigenous people of Hispaniola and the Africans were already trading, probably building civilizations and intermarrying with each other. Just saying. Okay. So in Columbus' journal, gold is given as Koana, while Guiana is recorded as an island where there's much gold. Fray Bartolome de la Casa, the Spanish scholar who traveled with Columbus and who was often applauded by his linguistic blunders, even in the use of Castilian Spanish, wrote in the margin of the journal, correcting Columbus. This Guiana is no island, but that gold which, according to the Indians, had an odor, for which they valued it much. Similarly, in the Raccolta, the Italian account of the voyage, one reads there were pieces of guanin as large as the Corvo's poop. The African spears presented by the Hispaniola Indians, so that means the Hispaniola, the Haitians and the Dominican Indians, or the Aborigines of Haiti and Dominican Republic, they had some of these African spears, which corroborated Don Juan's statement about the Guinea boats. So that means there were already Africans going over there to these Caribbean islands, were just one in number of new factors, pushing Columbus toward an exploration of the route from Guinea. His brother Bartholomew arrived at Hispaniola in command of 3 caravels on June 24th, 1494. Now let's go back, y'all. In the first chapter, we already in March 9th, 1993. Now here we are, June 24th, 1494. 1493 and 1494. Okay, so here we are about a year and some couple of months later, or 5 months later.
A few moments later.
The admiral had not seen his brother for many years, and Bartholomew knew more, Las Casalas tell us, than Christopher himself of the intelligence coming out of the Portuguese and African world. Bartholomew had worked as a cartographer in Lisbon. While there, he had drawn numerous maps for mariners, and he witnessed yearly the return of ships which had been navigating to the western land of Africa by the way of ocean. So these people have been watching the Africans.
What the fuck?
Or there's been rumors. So I guess when you're in the industry, you see other mariners, other merchants, sailors going this route and going that route. So it sounds like to me they've been watching them, watching the African. All right. And he witnessed yearly the return of the ships which had been navigating to the western lands of Africa by the way of the ocean. Enlightened and moved by the tales told him by those who returned, as one might say, from another world, and himself more versed in maritime affairs, he communicated to his elder brother his reasons and arguments, proving to him that in a sailing away from the southern part of Africa and directing his course straight upon the ocean sea, he would surely arrive at a continental land. He confirmed what Don Juan had told Columbus the previous year. When Columbus returned to Spanish court in 1496, he found everywhere a spirited discussion of those continental lands, said to lie to the south of the lands he had discovered, in which the King of Portugal seemed to think lay within his own domain. Jamie Ferrer, a jeweler and trader in precious stones, also a distinguished geographer who had done extensive traveling in Africa, had been called in by the Spanish sovereigns to head the commission fixing the Tordesillas mine, wrote letters to Isabel, who commanded him to get in touch with Columbus and tell him all he had heard about this new continent. Ferrer said he had picked up his knowledge from the Ethiopians and Arabs. Keep all that in mind, you all. He had many conversations in the Levant, in Alcaine and Damas, and from these he had gathered that within the equatorial regions there are great precious things such as fine stones, gold, spices, and drugs.
Yeah, boy.
The inhabitants are black and tawny. When your lordship Columbus finds such people in abundance of said things, should not be lacking. Okay, so let's go and type what tawny means. We're going to learn, boys and girls.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
They said black or tawny. Let's just do a tawny color. So a shade of brown, basically. Wow, they put in different types of brown color. So it's kind of going back to when you hear a lot of people say the copper color, but basically a shade of brown. So I want to go back to that part. So it says Pharaoh said he had picked up his knowledge from the Ethiopians and Arabs. He had many conversations in the Levant, in Alcaine and Damas, and from these he had gathered that within the equatorial regions there are great precious things such as fine stones and gold, spices and drugs. The inhabitants are black or tawny. Okay, they were black skinned or a darker brown, medium brown skin tone. When your lordship finds such people in abundance of the said things, shall not be lacking. His letter ends with a strange writer, which goes beyond mere gracious and implies that he knew some of this information had already been conveyed to Columbus. All of this matter your lordship knows more when sleeping than I do waking. The king and the queen were excited.
You're teasing me. Naughty, naughty.
They saw whole new kingdoms opening up. Colonization of Rag Bay of Islands was not enough. Columbus's mission would not be complete, they said, until these continental lands had been discovered and brought under the banner of Spain. See. The book is telling you right here, you all. They wanted these people to be under the power of Spain.
Bruh, chill.
But I think this is where I'm getting very confused. It says the extensive traveling in Africa had been called in by the Spanish sovereigns to head the commission. In many conversations within the equinoctial regions. Maybe we should type in the equinoctial regions. Let's see. Equinoctial regions. Okay. So these are regions that are around the equator. That's what says not very specific, but based on the map, these equatorial regions would be more West Africa or West Central, and right here around the Caribbeans and the centrals and northern part of Southern America. See, you all, this is where it gets very interesting. From these he had gathered. So it's letting you know who the people were. So now we know. They were of black, dark skin, or brown medium skin. So thus the scene was set for the exploration of the route the African mariners had taken to the New World. Columbus sailed with 6 ships on May 30th, 1498. He issued instructions to 3 of them to proceed to Hispaniola, today is present-day Haiti and Dominican Republic, directly, while he ordered the course laid to the way of the southwest, which is the route leading from these islands to the south, because then he would be on a parallel with the lands of Sierra of Loa or Sierra Leone and the Cape of Santa Ana in Guinea, which is below the equinoctial line. And after that, he would navigate to the west, and from there would go to this Hispaniola, in which the route he would prove the theory of the King Don Juan, and that he thought to investigate the report of the Indians. Of the Indians of this Hispaniola, who said that they had come to Hispaniola from the south and southeast, a black people who have the tops of their spears made of metal, which they call Guyini. So these people were not of, let me use the right word, these people were not lighter than a brown or medium skinned black person, basically. You know, as the more I'm reading this, it's making you think. So the present day Native Americans of these Americas, they saying it don't even fit the description. Let's not go there. Okay.
Bruh.
Where was I? I'm sorry, y'all. Like I said, I'm reading this and I'm learning, and we're all learning this together. He would prove the theory of King Don Juan, and that he thought to investigate the report of the Indians of this Hispaniola. Okay, so these are the Indians of Hispaniola, the Indians, aka the Aborigines, the indigenous people of Haiti, the indigenous people of Dominican Republic. Okay, who said they had come to Hispaniola from the south and southeast, a black people who had the tops of their spears made of metal, which they called Guyini. The journey by that route proved to be swift and the seas calm, but it suited the Africans far more than the Europeans, who could not bear the sun burning down upon the wild floating grasses of the sea with the same intensity as upon the grasses of the West African savanna lands. The heat tormented them almost to madness as they advanced through the Sargasso Sea. So ardent it was, so penetrating, that Columbus feared the ships would take fire. Oh wow. Feared the ships would take fire, and the butts of the wine and water would swell, breaking the hoops of the cask. The wheat burned like fire, and the pork and salt meat roasted and purified.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Fortunately, wow, y'all, this is interesting. I'm sorry, you guys. Wow, okay. So here it's saying the journey by that route proved to be swift and the seas calm, but it suited the Africans far more than the Europeans, who could not bear the sun burning down upon the wild floating grasses. Okay. So Columbus, he had feared the ships would catch on fire because it was that hot. Okay. Fortunately, the rains came, so it was able to cool things off. So fortunately, the rains came, without which, according to Columbus, none of them, unaccustomed as they were to such burning latitudes, would have escaped alive. Columbus ended up on a branch of the North Equatorial Current, which took him initially to a Caribbean island where three great rocks, which made him think of the Holy Trinity. He named this island Trinidad. Okay. Now, let's go back. Columbus ended up on a branch of the North Equatorial Current, which took him initially to a Caribbean island where three great rocks, which made him think of the Holy Trinity. And that's where we have Trinidad. Now, you all remember, this island was already here before Columbus, and I'm sure it already had a name before Trinidad, but he named the island Trinidad.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
Keep that in mind. It had a name before that. Okay, everyone. Sorry about the cutoff. I'll try to do better next time. I ran out of time, but I just wanted to come back and say it seemed like of a lot of our ancestors, some of us was already here, and then some of us were coming over from Africa, intermarrying with the natives of the Hispaniola area or the other Caribbean areas as well. And then some of us came over after the slavery, well, during that slavery. But this is interesting. It's getting good, you all. We're still in chapter 1. I'm hoping that you all are finding this very enlightening. And thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for supporting. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment and share. Please share. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you all. And y'all have a great one.
All right.